When Tommy Wiseau released his renowned bad film The Room in 2003, it was hailed by one reviewer as, quote, the Citizen Kane of bad movies. Thus far, it has been Wiseau's only entry into the cinematic canon. But there is another auteur of bad movies, whose output and longevity far exceeds that of Wiseau, Neil Breen. In his ongoing 18-year career, Breen has masterminded 6 movies that have attracted an army of ironically devoted fans and spawned a small industry of online criticism and review, leading one to perhaps ask, could Neil Breen be considered the Orson Welles of bad movies? Born in 1958, Breen was brought up on the east coast of the United States. He has stated that he had an interest in filmmaking from a very young age. Relocating to the West Coast, he became a licensed architect in California. Some accounts also suggest he has been a realtor. Breen's first foray into films came with the 2005 release Double Down. As with all subsequent releases, it would be financed, written, produced, directed, starred in, and pretty much everything else, by Breen. In it, he plays Aaron Brand, a computer genius and decorated fighter pilot, a top intelligence operative. He became so powerful that the government was terrified of him, though curiously, they decided to assassinate his fiancée, rather than just kill him. Brand carries on as a mercenary for hire to any government, protected from death by his elaborate technological precautions, and donating the millions he earns from espionage to children's charities. In a confusing plot, he's tasked by a foreign enemy with closing down the Las Vegas Strip, whilst simultaneously foiling terror attacks in the US, all the while mourning his dead fiancée. This established a recurring character in his films, that of the omnipotent Superman, dedicated to saving or improving humanity, but with lost love in his past. The film also established Breen's ability to produce ironically memorable scenes. Fans recall him eating tuna from a can while driving, wearing his military medals on a sleeveless jean jacket, blood splattering his face while assassinating adversaries, and the first appearance of broken laptop computers that form a part of many of his films. Double Down also featured much stock footage, another Breen motif. The minor success of the film encouraged him to finance another movie 4 years later, entitled I Am Here, Now. The omnipotent character returned, this time as the creator of humanity in human form. Disappointed by humanity's progress, he returns to Earth. The being focuses on helping twin sisters who've lost their jobs in renewable energy because of corrupt politicians who are backed by a violent gang. Breen's character sorts out the politicians and violent gang, then brings happiness to the twins' lives. He leaves after emphasizing a message of love and respect to all humankind. This was the first Neil Breen entry to feature basic special effects, and is also notable for some extraordinarily clunky dialogue. It still provides some memorable scenes, but is perhaps less well remembered than Double Down. After another 4-year hiatus, Breen returned in 2013 with what is generally considered his magnum opus, Fateful Findings. The film brings together all of the main themes of his work in an entertaining and better-paced film, and the result must surely be one of the best bad movies of all time. The movie opens with Breen's character Dylan as a child, discovering magical objects with his friend Leah, including a mysterious black cube, which later becomes imbued with magical powers. The film then cuts to an adult Dylan, now a successful author, being run over by a car. His distraught wife and friends gather by his bed, along with Leah, now a hospital doctor, though Leah and Dylan are somehow unaware of each other's identity. After Dylan makes a miraculous recovery, He realizes his powers, and instead of writing another best-selling book, decides to hack into government and corporate secrets. His wife becomes addicted to his medication, and he reconnects with Leah. The film also focuses on the deteriorating relationship between their best friends, Jim and Amy. Dylan rekindles his love with Leah, and despite a series of dangerous events, reveals all the hidden secrets in a triumphant press conference, a scene much commented upon by fans and critics alike. The film benefits tremendously from the greater involvement of the supporting cast, with many scenes that don't feature Breen at all. The other characters function as more than just plot delivery systems, and give the audience relief from being beaten over the head with Breen's repetitive tropes. From that career highlight, Breen returned 3 years later, with what is considered by many the weakest of his films, 2016's Pass-Through. He plays a heroin addict in the desert who, after dying from a hotshot, is possessed by a messianic AI force from far in the future. The plot features people traffickers and their human cargo, 2 of whom escape from the gang and take refuge with Breen in a desert trailer. The film covers much of the same ground as I Am Here, Now, and is somewhat stale by comparison. It includes one memorable scene, sometimes referred to as the Evil Party, in which Breen's character infiltrates a gathering of rich and powerful corporate criminals, admonishes them, then leaves, blowing up the mansion in which the party takes place. The culmination of the film involves the Messiah announcing that he will be eliminating 300 million bad people from Earth, which might be a little disturbing to those who believe in due process. The 5th of Breen's films, Twisted Pair, released in 2018, focuses on a pair of AI twins, Cade and Cale, both played by Breen. The pair were selected by a higher intelligence to receive special powers. Cade used his powers for good, while Cale used his for ill, causing a schism between the 2 brothers. Cade is engaged in various national security work and missions for good, including frustrating the plans for world domination by an evil genius named Kuz, while Cale is engaged in crime and drugs, also doing a sideline in kidnapping, torturing, and executing corrupt businessmen. Cade prevails as expected in his mission against Kuz, but endures heartbreak over the fate of his relationship with his girlfriend, also a national security operative, as Breen returns to the lost love motif. Breen's final film to date has yet to be released, though a trailer was recently made available. Entitled Cade, The Tortured Crossing, Cade of Twisted Pair returns, this time investigating the goings-on at a ramshackle mental asylum. Whilst many mock Neil Breen's films, he's entertained a lot of people, albeit ironically. Making a film of any length is an enormous achievement, worthy of respect, regardless of the quality. Especially considering that Breen is essentially a one-man band. His singular focus is also his weakness. With no sounding board, his stories become increasingly egocentric and repetitive. It's no coincidence that by far his best film, Fateful Findings, involved better drawn supporting characters, lessening the effect of his more egocentric plotlines. Breen is 64 years old and shows no sign of slowing down. With his niche firmly established, it looks as though we can look forward to more cinematic outings from the Orson Welles of bad movies.